think it is fair to say the highly anticipated return of the Premier League season did not disappoint this weekend. We've got plenty of talking points to dissect and go through on tonight's Premier League roundup. So I hope you are all well. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. The usual crew are with me this week. Firstly, Josh, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all right. And Sean, how are you, mate?
I'm really good, mate. Really good. Back after a weekend away. So
I know. Well, no, you bunked off doing this for 2 weeks because you went to the Dominican Republic. So it's nice to have you back.
yeah, I had a little jolly in Weymouth for 3 nights and day off work today. So back with a sore throat though. So that tells you how the weekend went.
Good stuff. Right, we will start in the Midlands now. I watched a brief amount of this in a pub in Stratford, and when Wolves took the lead early on, there was an outburst of cheers around the pub, I must admit. But Liverpool managed to get the job done in the end. Josh, Wolves won, Liverpool 3.
Yeah, well, I thought Wolves played very well first half, and they were by far the better team. And Liverpool looked quite poor, really. They were all moaning about the curse of the 12:30 kickoff, and Klopp was moaning at the start of the game how they always get too many early kickoffs and stuff like this. And yeah, they were all getting a bit panicky, but the second half they did turn on, to be fair. But that Pedro Neto, he's very, very good player. Just went through about 4 of them a few times and got a lot of quality. I think he had a bad injury last year or the year before, which kept him out for about 12 months. But he's always been highly rated, and I think he's going to be another one they'll struggle to keep hold of. Obviously, they've lost quite a few players anyway this summer, Wolves. And I think next 6 or 12 months, he'll be the next one to go. He just looks different class player. Hwangi Chan as well with the goal. It doesn't get many, but well taken finish from a tough angle, which Neto provided. But no, second half, Liverpool really turned on. Obviously, they had injuries with Alexander Arnold injured. They had to put that young lad in at centre back. I forgot his name, but they had to play a weak in defence basically. And they really did turn it on the second half. Cody Gakpo scored. He hardly touched the ball in the first half, but he got to tap in to make it 1-1. And when Nunes and Elliott come on, that just changed the game really. I think Nunes offers them something different, just a bit of pace and strength from behind. So much more than Gakpo does in that number 9 role. And yeah, when he looks in. But when Liverpool always seems to be in really. But when Harvey Elliott just had that shot, goes in off both posts. And yeah, that's when he looks in. But it always seems to be with Liverpool. But I think Wolves will just about have enough. I think they've got quite a bit of quality going forward, even though they've lost some. They just struggle to take the chances. But I think if they keep creating them, I think eventually they might just about have enough at the end to avoid the drop. They've got a lot of good players there. Joao Gomez in the midfield as well, Lamina. Very good Premier League players for bottom half standards. So I feel Wolves just about have enough. And as for Liverpool, I'm not sure about title contenders, but they're definitely dominant force they were the other year. But I do think they could be the closest challenger Man City this year.
Yeah, I think Liverpool have impressed so far. They've won 4 and drew 1 out of their games, and nobody's really talked about them. Everyone's talked about Man City, and everyone's talked, wanting to talk about Arsenal. And Liverpool have sort of gone under the radar a little bit and just cracked on, and they've massively improved that midfield, which was well overdue. And I think they're looking like a quite decent unit there. And I think they will be up there much more than they were last year. That is for sure. Before we move on to the next game, let's just see who we've got in the chat. Theme Park Louis, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Budgie as well. I hope you are well. Sharky, hope you are keeping well, mate. Everybody else saying a little hello to each other. Crisis Blimmin'. What's the Monday night kickoff tonight, Sean?
Oh, Forest Burnley, isn't it?
Oh my lord!
I
might watch Emmerdale.
I think they care more about the Jamie Carragher waffle. He's got the Brentford manager on, hasn't he?
Yeah,
I think they care more about that. The thing is, they'll talk about that for an hour and give the game coming up like 2-minute build up.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's get this out of the way then. Let's go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs 2, Sheffield United 1. Come on then, Sean, give it to me.
Well, firstly, it wasn't lucky. Put it that way. I've seen some. I think Mandy commented lucky. That's just and you said it earlier as a bit of a joke. That's like the comment you make if you didn't really know what happened in the game. Like a lot of the games, like after the international, it's a long international break, wasn't it? And I think a lot of the games, I think you'd probably say most of the teams weren't quite at their best. I think that's usually the case anyway. So Tottenham were a tiny bit off it, but they still dominated the game from start to finish. The main talking point was probably the ref. The ref was absolutely appalling, like really bad. The Sheffield United manager had the front to moan about him, but really he probably should have sent a couple of their players off. I thought Tottenham had a stonewall penalty on Maddison. Like, I don't like it. We conceded a softer one at first game of the season at Brentford with Son making a tackle, and this was shin in the back of the calf. I think Dermot Gallagher said he'll always protect man. Some refs on his little show, and he said I don't think there was enough contact. You can see the kick in the back of his calf, but that was a stonewall. But the two main talking points was one, the time wasting, and that is where you get the 12 minutes added on from. Apparently, I watched bits of the game. My stream kept going because I was out and about for the day. But those in the ground, so it's the worst case of time wasting they've seen in years and years and years. They were actually expecting more than 12 minutes to be added on. We're talking like the goalkeeper restrapping his gloves 3 times after he'd been booked for handling the ball, so he's time wasting. The ref let him get away with that. We're talking players going down with pretend cramp. We're talking about the balls going out of play constantly. It was they're relegation fodder, so they're going to go to these bigger grounds. They're going to do it, but they come unstuck because the time added on was all fair, and then you ended up conceding goals late in the allotted time, and they got what they deserved in the end, really. But the ref was appalling. I don't know if they'll look at him, and I can't remember his name.
Peter Banks,
I said about I think there's 13 bookings in the game, but there wasn't actually a bad tackle in the match. You know when a ref starts dishing out cards and then he probably regrets it. Next thing you know, he's lost control. Oh, we can't give another soft yellow because I'll get ridiculed. It's one of them. It's almost like I think he dished out 3 in quick succession to them. The positive is Tottenham weren't quite at their best. Like I said, they totally dominated. It's the new manager. He's just brought like a togetherness, really. With past managers, even if he's been quite good, the players not playing or only getting 10 minutes, you could tell they're not happy. Even like when the goals, I think they made like 3 or 4 subs at the end. They contributed to the goals. There's footage of the players on the bench who've come off, players on the bench who haven't even come on, just running down, just cheering everyone on. Obviously, Richarlison's had his personal problems come out in the week. They push him to the front of the celebrate. It's just that there's just a happiness, a togetherness, just a bit more of a funness around the place. You know what I mean? Like under Conte, we got 4 from him. Probably had a brilliant 6 months under him, but it almost felt a bit regimental. You might not admit, or any of you as West Ham fans, but when you hear Ange Postecoglou talk in interviews, I've heard neutrals say you can't help but love him because he just says all the right things. He's a good guy, and he's just orchestrating the right sort of thing around the club. He's also very clear that we're nowhere near the finished product. We're still very, very early days. We're going to hit bumps in the road like we did in the Cup. We've got 2 very tough games coming up next, our toughest game of the season next week, where we never win ever. So I did say in our introduction show of the season, we're going to be like the underdog people might dismiss, and I'll stand by that. I thought we'd be top 8, maybe a bit above with or without Kane. I'm not going to get overexcited and go too high above that. But 5 games in, I'll be surprised if we're out of the top 6 at the end of the season. I don't think that's an over-ambitious statement, because I do think we're going to get better and better. A few unsung heroes. I know I'm going on a bit. Our left back, Udogie, he's class. We bought him 18 months ago, and in the deal was we had to loan him back to Udinese. So we had next year. He's come back in. He's got a Mike Saka this week coming, and that'd be interesting because Udogie is very good, very, very good. We need a new centre half for years, you know. Oh, went there. We had Dyer Sanchez trying to play next to Romero. Do you know what I mean? And this Van der Ven, he's only 21, and he looks very, very, very good as well. Again, going back to Conte with Romero, he's a class player. I know he can be rash this season. Nothing like it. It's come out since that him and Conte did not get on. If Conte stayed, he'd have had to go. He's now one of the the co-captains, so he's happy. Everyone is happy, and that's that's half the battle. Like, we're going to get on to other games in a minute where I think some clubs don't look happy, and it does ring true on the pitch. But it was a good win, brilliant ending. That's what football's all about: late goals, great celebrations. Doesn't matter the opposition in the slightest. That's what it's all about. It's all about the ecstasy of a late goal. There's probably nothing better in football than a very late goal. Tottenham have been lucky as fans to have some very, very late comebacks and win games in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's just fun, isn't it? But yeah, tough couple of games.
It's great,
ahead.
Sean, isn't it? It's great going against the odds and, picking something up late on at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Just a shame there was no one there. Right, just one thing I wanted to pick up on. And Josh, I'll ask you this. There's been some inconsistencies with the time wasting and how it's been refereed. Now, the instance I'd take would be how the geezer for Arsenal got booked, and he literally only just picked up the ball, and he was the one who got booked at Crystal Palace a couple of weeks ago. There's been other instances where players haven't been booked for clear time wasting, and some players may look a little bit more unfortunate. Do you think there needs to be a clear sort of bit of legislation to say what is time wasting? Because at the moment it's just the referee's perception, and they're going out sometimes giving it, sometimes not. And I think that sort of unknown area of it, Josh, is where people are getting frustrated.
Yeah, I think the consistency of it is very poor. Like, sometimes you kick the ball away first minute and straight away it'll give you a yellow card, but then they might not send you off after that because they're just scared to, because they give a booking so early. And then sometimes the goalkeepers they don't get booked till about the 85th minute. Like, I still don't see the goalie sent off for time wasting. Even if they're doing it the whole game, like 85 minutes, they won't get booked to time wasting for. And then there is some games where they do take no messing in straight away, just bang bang. But there's got to be an element of consistency in there, which there isn't. Like, some games, they straight away will book you. Like, if you see a time wasting. Always will leave it a bit and then do it, but then when they do book you on early, they're going to be quite lenient on you after that for the rest of the game, because they know they booked you so early. I just think I still don't really get it, all this time wasting thing, and I just think although they tried to clamp down on it.
Yeah. Just the sort of final point of it is, and I think, Sean, you mentioned it, we will move on, but the final thing I'll say is that there was no way, that Sheffield United keeper could have done absolutely anything, but he wouldn't have been set off because the referee wouldn't have wanted the limelight of already booking him, but not then, because you can't send someone off for time wasting. But then he sent that geezer off because he complained where his shirt was rightly being pulled. But we will move on because we'll be here all night. And I know, Sean, you want to go and watch Forest Burnley in 45 minutes. So we'll move to the London Stadium and get this out of the way. West Ham 1, Manchester City 3. That I was pretty impressed with what I saw. If you take the lead and you have a lead going into half time against the champions, and I think you've done pretty well, and I think we did. I think we contained some of the pressure early. Areola made some brilliant saves at the start. There was 5 sort of blocks and saves that we made in a 30-second period inside 7 minutes, which was very, very good. And then we sort of stopped their threat, and then again, another brilliant counter-attacking goal. Balls from Soufal is brilliant. The header from Ward-Prowse is just as good, and the finish is excellent, and it's 1-0 West Ham. And I felt, obviously conceding straight after half-time is just such that, it completely killed the momentum we had, which left us already on the back foot going into the second half. And then, listen, the inevitable was going to happen. We ran out of steam in the end, and the champions did what the champions do. They grinded it out. They got the win, and fair play to them. They deserve to win on balance. I don't think it was a 3-1 game, but they deserve to win. But I still think there's plenty of positives we can take out of it as well. Some very, very good performances. Alvarez in midfield I thought was excellent. As soon as he went off, it all started to fall apart. So that's a key sort of moment. Moment in the game there. Kudus looked quite sharp when he came on. But yeah, overall there wasn't. Soufal got absolutely battered by Doku on that side, and he doesn't get battered in one-on-ones very often. So that was a little bit disappointing. But apart from that, there wasn't really any players that stood out and were shocking. I thought Gerd was good apart from the apart from his mistake for City's second goal. But apart from that, I was relatively impressed. And if we play like that next week against Liverpool, we get there. I think we could just nick a point. But we'll wait and see. Josh, anything to add?
Yeah, I couldn't watch this one because I was watching the Villa game. But I've heard that Areola also had quite a good game. I've seen bits on Match of the Day, and that Doku does look quite a decent player. Looked like he had Soufal on toast, but nothing too much really to add. We all expected Man City to win the end. I knew West Ham would give them a game how well they've been playing, although I still was quite shocked to see it 1-0 to West Ham half time. But no, it's just the City's class showed through in the second half in the end.
Yeah, which it will do for the majority of the season. Right, Sean, you have got the most boring game of the weekend to now talk about. Fulham 1, Luton 0. I'm not even going to give you anything for this because I didn't even know this happened until I had to type it in 10 minutes ago. So far away, mate.
Oh, well, you're not the only one who forgot about this game, to be quite honest with you. It's the sort of game, I know they're away, but it's the sort of game that I don't think Fulham have been at their best. It's the sort of game that Luton probably need to be getting something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think Luton, they are already bottom, haven't played a game less than a few teams. Am I right in thinking that? I think they've conceded 11 or 12. If you have a look at the bottom of the league already, I think if you have a look at the bottom four, I think you look at the bottom four now, you'd probably say, well, 3 of those bottom 4 will go down. And that we're 5 games in. And I know I condemned Sheffield United and Luton before a ball was kicked. But there's even talk of Sheffield United sacking the manager and bringing back the one they used to have, Wilder. You know what teams are like. Even though Luton weren't miracles getting to the league, I don't know what their owners are like, but they'll probably panic and go Neil Warnock or someone daft like that.
Big Sam.
I don't know. I know I moaned about how poor the league was in general last year, but at least we had sort of you were in the relegation battle for 70% of the season. So we had probably 6 or 7 down there. But all of them look better than 3, at least better than Everton for starters. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everton have got worse. But Luton, like I said, sticking with them, I'm sure I said, and a few people said they could get like close to the record low points. I think Derby on something like 11 or something ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Saying that, my lot have got to go down in a couple of weeks, so that probably it'd be one of them. But yeah, they got Fulham away. Even if they took a point, they just need a point on the board. And then they're up and running. So last year, like I said, with 7 or 8 down there that weren't great, and 3 of them are going to go in the end. I think this season, the likes of a Forest, a Wolves, maybe. I know Wolves are still down there, but you probably say already they'll probably already have enough, and they can be poor and still be enough. Even Burnley, they're in the bottom 4. I don't know whether they're going to get up and running. I'll be honest. I've seen them a fair bit last year. I expected a bit better from them, Burnley. But yeah, if you look at the bottom 4 now, I'm saying straight away 3 of those to go. I can't see it. Forest, they got too much about them. Bournemouth, they'll have too much about them. Do you know what I mean? When you look how bad Everton, Sheffield United, and Luton are, do you know what I mean? And then I'm kind of waiting for Burnley to kick in the gear with Company. Do you know what I mean? It's not happening yet. Maybe he's trying to play too much football. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he hasn't got the players to try and play it. And he got, obviously, against my lot, he got done for 5 the other week. So, I don't know. I think I've seen one of the reporters right on there, and I don't think Company will. Remember, Forest changed their style mid-season last year? They tried playing, and then they just parked the bus. They thought, right, we're going to just pick up a couple here, a couple there. But, yeah, you could see a ridiculously low amount of points and keep you up this season, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And to be fair, I thought Luton would beat us. I thought it was written in the stars, and they didn't. So Luton are struggling. Fulham are a side that we all sort of agreed on might struggle this year, but they've had quite a decent start. They're sat in 9th, so that will be one to keep an eye on as well. Next up, here we go then, Josh. Some more late goals in this. Villa 3, Crystal Palace 1. Josh, tell me what happened, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't look. Somebody said there's been a load of late goals and Villa was involved. So crack on, Josh.
Yeah, my heart rate only went back to normal about an hour after the game, to be honest. But no, for Crystal Palace, they come and set up a very good game plan. Obviously, Roy Hodgson wasn't there as he was ill, so the assistant was in charge. He just turned up, sat back for the whole game. We couldn't break them down, and they did look very dangerous on the counter attack. We must have had 70% of the ball at least, like the whole game. But they just said, come and break us down, and we couldn't the whole game. We did have chances, although I don't really think Sam Johnson had to make too many saves. We just couldn't really break them down. Obviously, we had a disallowed goal in the first half, Moussa Diaby, which is offside by a toenail as usual, but what can we do about that, I suppose. Ollie Watkins also missed a very good chance in the first half. He's just completely shot of confidence at the moment. And then second half, just they were getting more and more dangerous on the break. Mateta and Edouard, every time and Eze as well, every time they come forward, they look dangerous. And for the goal, Torres commits to Mateta and he doesn't win it. He rolls him and ended away. Then it's like so Mateta's in there. It's only Konza back. Edouard's in the box and then it's Martinez. And as the ball comes in, Martinez slips. So that I think Edouard sees that and just hits it first time and goes under his legs. And then it just looks like we can't break them down. But then John Duran, with an unbelievable finish off the bench, went to up top, get it down his chest, volleyed it, rifled it in the top corner. And we knew it was going to be something special to break them down because we just couldn't break them down really. So it'd have to be something special. But then as soon as we got that first goal, they added 10 minutes on because they were time wasting ridiculously. Sam Johnston went down for about 10 minutes and he wasn't even injured. He just got back up as normal after that. So I think there was 9 added on because the penalty checking at the time it got to about 30 in the end. But no, I think a few years ago, if he would have got a last minute equaliser like under Smith or Gerrard, we would have thought, oh yeah, well we've got a point, and then we'll just sit back and try and take it. But what Emery's brought now is like when we do score a late goal against a team like that, we now believe that we can go on and win these games like against these type of teams, which we've never had before. And
Josh, your favourite player scored the third goal.
Yeah, I'll come on to that in a minute. But yeah, as soon as he scored that first goal, I actually believed that we'd win. The penalty decision is very debatable. However, what I will say is we could have had a penalty right at half time for a handball, which they hardly even really checked with his arms. We're certainly not in a natural position. Can't remember. I think it was centre back Chris Richards, and it struck his arm. Yeah, for the penalty, he did get the ball, a bit of the ball, but he also went through Watkins as well. And if it takes that long to come to a decision, then it's obviously not obvious that it's not a penalty, is it? So, yeah, Douglas Luiz calmly slots away the penalty. I think we've definitely found a new penalty to take it there because Ollie Watkins hasn't got a very good penalty record, so we're glad he's finally off it now. And then they commit a lot of players forward, and then Tielemans just one straight ball through to Diaby, who squares it for my favourite player, Leon Bailey, who can't miss really, but to be fair, he did make an impact. Him and Duran, when he come off the bench, they were very good. Bailey looked lively, got past a few players, and yeah, they were the game changers really, which I never thought I'd say. But though Bailey had his best game in a while, his one good game in 10. But John Duran, he just offers something different. He's still very young and raw, but he chases down every ball. He runs the channels well. And he can probably finish better than Watkins as well. That goal just gets down his chest and absolutely rifles it into the top corner in a team who haven't looked like scoring all game. He seems very confident for his age. I think we've got a player in our hands there for the future. But it felt like it was one of those days. I think the one time Watkins did the post, he come back off the keeper and went wide. And we just thought it's not our day. But no, eventually, as soon as he got that first goal, we all believed and we managed to win it in the end. So I think that's 9 from the first 5 now. But Chelsea away and then Brighton at home will be a lot tougher of a test. So yeah, on to the next one.
There we go. And take a breath, Josh. That was very good. You filled me in superbly there. Thank you very much indeed. Right, let's take some comments before we move on. Sharky says Luton look certain to go down. We gave Bournemouth a point to start them off, and they've been poor since. To be fair, if any team was gonna, beat, if any team was gonna score towards the end yesterday down on the South Coast, it probably was Bournemouth. We'll come on to that.
What I'll say about I know everyone's going on the lower sides on the bottom, like your Lutons, your Bournemouths, your Sheffield United. I don't think any of them are getting walloped though. I know, like if you look at like City only beat Sheffield United 2-1 with a very late goal. We got very late goals. I think they're all they're not like getting annihilated really. But then again, if you've got hang on, maybe they're just hanging on, and I don't know. But yeah, I
think I mean, you can't. Sheffield United are going to play away, which I expected them to play. They're going to go to the big sides. They're going to try and get a goal and then completely park the bus properly. And they've done that against City. They've done that against Spurs, and they come unstuck right at the end, which is unfortunate. They'll feel, they'll feel like they've been quite unlucky. But I mean, they've got to move on. We play them in a couple of weeks, so hopefully that's not a banana skin for us in that sense. Here he comes. Josh's granddad is here. He's on, but being extra quiet as I'm in a period of mourning for my team. But to be fair, it's a game we didn't expect to win, but we didn't even turn up. Yeah, I'd be concerned if I was an Evertonian, to be honest. There wasn't much good coming from that game. Yeah, Arsenal, but to be fair, there was plenty of anomalies, and to be fair, I didn't think Arsenal played great, but we'll come on to that. And see, Sean's vigorously shaking his head. He's ready to unleash on Arsenal in just a second. Michael, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Jay says, what's the situation? Oh, I'm not even mentioning that guy. No, thank you. Right, let's scroll down. All the Spurs fans in the chat are having their fun. You crack on, mate. Obviously got nothing else to do. Michael says Liverpool are no City. I'm afraid. Think anyone that finishes above City will win the league. Oh yeah, definitely. City again will win it. Has got no doubt about it. Right, my screen has gone. Let's get that back. Moving on. Next. Oh, here we go then, Sean. Manchester United 1, Brighton 3. Try and make sense of Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United, Sean.
Oh, where to start with this? Thing is, these sort of games, you weigh it up. The press would love going on United. I know De Zerbi's getting loads of credit, and I think I've seen. I think it's a third goal go around all the channels today, repeated about 30 passes. But when you watch that third goal, the effort, the pressing by United, they were almost jogging those side to side through the middle, pass. All three of their goals were very, very similar as well. They sort of played like about 2 or 3 triangles, got the ball out wide, almost pulled it back sort of the edge of the box, and it was quite a simple finish. The keeper was poor for the last one. Obviously, Brighton are doing Brighton things. They're not showing any sign of slowing down or not improving. But United, well, I think they bought players they didn't really need in the summer. I don't know whether, I think it was Gary Neville said they bought players that they didn't think improved their first 11 as such. They lose Luke Shaw at left back, so they've got to take Tottenham's Reguilon on loan, who apparently was one of their better players at the weekend, by the way. So that tells you the issue there. Ten Hag come up with an excuse saying everyone spent money, blah, 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 blah. I think that the starting lineup I've seen at Brighton's cost 16 million.
16.3 million.
Yeah, and so he's starting to flap. One thing I will say, I obviously they've had problems with Greenwood, Anthony, Sancho, probably Maguire. I think there's probably been a little bit of a fallout. One thing I'll say, going back to when Tottenham were looking for a new manager, when we ended up with Nuno for about 3 months, Tottenham interviewed Ten Hag. He was like he was like the flavour of the month. Done well at Ajax. He was flavour of the month for all the jobs when there's something going on. Tottenham interviewed him amongst about another 5-6 managers. The message that come back from the right channels that you get certain fans that know their stuff was they didn't pursue him because they didn't like his cold and non-personal, how he come across in the interview, almost like very cold, very blasé. If you watch him in interviews, that's how he comes across to me. There's not a lot. I can't imagine him being the type to put an arm around someone, put it that way. He just doesn't come across like that at all. And now I'm watching United, there almost looks like a team's full of individuals just falling apart at the seams a little bit. So then that took me
You know
back.
what? Do you know what? I'd be absolutely livid if I was a Man United fan, because I think whoever said it's bang on. They signed Mason Mount, who they didn't need. The jury's still out on this striker they've bought, but they were booing when he went off. And whoever else he said, to be fair, I completely forgot they signed regularly on from your boys. I completely forgot about that. They've just spent a truckload of money again that hasn't improved them. I'd be absolutely fuming.
Yeah, a few of them are a little bit delusional. I think they will not say they might turn the corner, but it's just all a bit. I said earlier about some clubs can be a happy place. Everyone's buzzing, everyone's smiling. This is a club that's not. The fans are unhappy. The fans want to blame the Glazers for everything. Basically, I get why they do, because the Glazers have let the ground run down. They've let the training ground run down. The club hasn't kicked on as the mega power in football like it should have. On the other hand, they've still pumped in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds on players. I'm not sure who's been choosing these players, but Joel Glazer and the other ones, I'm sure they're not picking the footballers across Europe. So they're obviously agreeing to sign the check. So money's being spent very poorly. Also, as well, I'm not sure about your club, but a lot of clubs nowadays, it's not all about the talent on the field. They do a check on the personality of the player. If you've got a history of being a bit of a prat or a troublemaker or being late for training, there's a chance they might not touch you. I don't think United do due diligence on players they sign. I think I've read a few stories that having celebratory dinners for people that have been criminals. That are not going to go into that story too much. Like they got Anthony said that with the Anthony thing, they said they weren't aware of any possible charge before they signed him, even though this happened way before they did get him. So
I think it's a big mess. I think it's a big mess that people and fans are pointing at different people.
Solskjaer still for starting the low standards, but they went with Ten Hag, and a lot. I said about the league last year, I didn't think it was that strong at the top. I remember saying to you that I don't think Man United, Newcastle, yeah, they were pretty good. United got third, and I don't think they were very good last season. No. They almost got it by default. Do you know what I mean? Look how poor Liverpool and Tottenham and Chelsea were last year. They got it by default. I expect the Tottenham to be around them this year. But you look at their team, like I think Wan-Bissaka's out for a little while now, and some people are already getting on Onana's back saying De Gea would have saved that third one. That some are even moaning, this is Man United. Oh, we can't cope without Varane. That's one player at Man United. If a club as big as Man United can't cope when one centre-half gets injured, then Martinez, he started the season poorly. He was flavour of the month all last year. They're booing when that Højlund comes off because they've got to bring on Martial, who was out on loan last season. And he didn't even get was he at Seville? Didn't even get a game or something? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It is a complete and utter mess there. And I don't know who's built the squad building atrocious. I don't know who's in charge of putting that squad together. Yeah, the result probably shouldn't have shocked anyone at the weekend, really. No. But how easy Brighton did it. Like Brighton probably played a million times better versus your lot, and you beat them. Put it that way, right? Yes. They probably passed the ball around far quicker, far smarter. Yeah. Against United, there was no pressing, there was no closing down. The goals were embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no like West Ham putting bodies on the line to stop their attacks. Do you know what I mean? There's none of that. Yeah. Awful. I don't know who they got on Europe this week, but I know Europe's starting. Some of these teams probably could do without the extra game, I think. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They need to. But like I said, I'll go back to the original comment. Tottenham interviewed Ten Hag, and they said they found a very cold personality with not a lot of character. I see that in interviews. And the way some of the players are, there's personal issues going on at that club. It's clear as day. There's 3 or 4 or 5 players. They're just not getting on. And I'm seeing why probably Tottenham didn't touch him at the moment.
Yeah, it's a big mess there. That is for sure. Let's move on to the Saturday night football. And Josh, I will come to you. Some more VAR drama in this game. It was Newcastle 1, Brentford 0. A little bit of optimism for Newcastle as they all head out to Milan.
Yeah, Newcastle have got quite a nice run of fixtures in the league next week, because obviously they've had quite a tough run. I think they've had City, Liverpool, and who did they play last week before? I forgot. But someone else decent who they got beat to. But for now, they've got better games coming up. no, the disallowed goal that they had, I thought was quite silly. The goalie just looked weak to me. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think every time you challenge the goalkeeper now, they just give it as a foul, and that's just the way it is now, unfortunately. However, the penalty, I didn't think was a penalty. I thought it was quite harsh. I think Gordon always looking for a penalty there, and the keeper actually tries to move his leg away, but Gordon just goes into it. It seemed quite harsh to me. But no, it was a bit of a nothing game. The game itself, nothing too really much happened apart from that. Newcastle had most of the ball. Brentford had a few chances on the counter first half with Wissa. There's nothing else really to add. I just think the VAR is just stupid. I think it's been like this for years now with the goalkeepers where you can't challenge them. The goal did have a bit of a shocker as well. Always looked a bit weak and clumsy. But no, I do think Newcastle will start moving up the table a lot more now with nice fixtures. Obviously, they go to Milan the week, which I think will be tough for them. And I think as the Champions League games start coming thick and fast, we're going to struggle more. But I'm sure the next 3 or 4 games they have got a nice run of fixtures, so that'll be better for them. I took Alexander Isak out to my fantasy football team for Callum Wilson this weekend, and Isak didn't play.
I didn't.
And Wilson scored. So that went very well for me. But I think next week as well, he start doing 2 up top more in games. Like if he's got some bottom half teams at home, then I think he'd like to do some bottom half 2 up top more with Wilson and Isak. So we have them 2 could be good for your fantasy Premier League team. But no, good win for them as for Brentford. It's a bit of a tough start to the season for them. They've had quite a few draws, a few games they could have won at home, like Palace had only drew. I think they'll be around mid-table again. I think when Tony comes back, they'll be a lot better. I think they'll come about 12th or 11th, and they're just going to be that bog-standard mid-table team this season. Still a good side. Nothing else really to add for that. Good win for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think once again VAR came into the limelight with this one. Brentford have sort of trudged along so far at the start of the season, and Newcastle were going to struggle. Newcastle were going to struggle going out to Milan and coming back and playing in the Premier League. Listen, they're going to have a whale of a time out there. Fair play to them. But I do think that their Premier League form may just drop a bit more with the involvement of Europe, which they probably at the moment in the league don't need because they haven't started particularly well. It was nice of you, Sean, to magically turn your light on. Josh, it was nice of you to magically turn your light on there. That was very good skills. Yeah. I was just worrying the night was turning very, 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 very quickly on you there, Josh. But all good. Right, before we do move on, Sean, I'm sure you saw this weekend your favourite team absolutely battered Millwall this weekend.
Leeds, yeah. Sort of followed it. It was more fun watching
the geezer jump up and down.
Yeah, the fan videos were quite amusing.
Yeah.
Because they sort of class themselves as rivals a little bit as well, don't they? They got 2 little angry fan bases that like to shout at each other on train stations and things like that.
I thought I'd better give it a mention because credit where credit's due.
We don't usually cover the lower leagues on this thing, do we? So
but I thought I'd give a special mention to your favourite team, Leeds. But anyway, right, let's move on to a game that was a little less entertaining. Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 0. Sean, Bournemouth were good. They got a visitor, right? Sean. Yeah,
she's in a pajamas.
Embarrassed.
Sorry, mate. Rude interruption, that was.
Yeah. I was hoping it wasn't a burger. I thought, flipping out, Sean, you want to get off and sort this out now. But Bournemouth sort of held on. And then the last 10 minutes, they opened the floodgates and they nearly nicked all 3. Chelsea's injury team put together is £370 million. They've only won 6 games in all competitions in the calendar year of 2023. The last top 6 side they beat were you boys back in January. It's a shambles.
Yeah, you're probably not surprised that I'm not surprised by these results or this form. I sort of seen this coming. I told you right at the start of the season, I was baffled by the odds for them to get things like top 4. I was baffled by some people saying they do really well. I didn't see it from the start. I just didn't see it. The players they were selling it was never Ted Bowley's scattergun approach. I thought Poch was daft to take the job at the time. I just didn't see it. I know a lot of people now are sort of getting on board with the same thought process. I think Jermaine Jenas was it Match of the Day 2 last night? Yeah, but he compared. I know they got. Well, we'll come on to the injured players in a minute. He compared the benches yesterday, and he said he preferred the Bournemouth bench. Do you know what I mean? So they said that the Bournemouth made changes and got better. Chelsea made changes and got worse. I expect you've seen the list of the players they've got injured. Say 11 players.
Yeah, a team worth 370 million.
Yeah, 370 million. But you go down that list, you tell me how many players you think are massive game changers.
True.
They got that. I know they spent a fortune on Sado, but he's not going to win you many football matches. And I know they've missed. Fafan has been out, and I look at the injured list, and it doesn't jump out at me thinking, oh, when they're back, they're going to start climbing the table. They might get a little bit better.
I mean, if I just read it out, you wouldn't think this team is worth, right? Both of you, right? How much? I want you both to pick a number about how much you think this team would be worth. I've told you it's worth 370 million. I'm going to read out 385 million. Apologies. How much do you think this team would be worth in the market? I've never even heard of the goalkeeper. Bettinelli, James, Chalobah, Fafana, Kukurea, Lavia, Caicedo, and Chukwuemeka, Madueke, and Kunku, Ambrosia. How much do you think that 11 is worth?
Probably about half of what they paid for it. Rough. And Kuku's meant to be talented. Is it Fafana, the centre back?
Fafana, the centre back.
He's barely kicked the ball for him, has he? Did he come from Leicester? Barely kicked the ball. And they obviously.
Hang on 2 seconds, right? The thing that I've got an issue here, right? They've signed all these players, and some of them they bought up, but they've signed all these players. Poch hasn't signed these players. Poch has never heard of any of these players. Josh, it's a shambles.
Yeah, I think that bench should come about 13th in the league. I think a lot of it is just young kids like Madueke. They give us 20 million for Chukwuemeka, or his name is.
He's even his name.
we our midfield in total: McGinn, Louise, Kamara, Tielemans, Ramsey. I've said McGinn. That's 20 million. All them together combined. That's what they've cost, and then we give them Chukwuemeka for 20 million on his own. Says a lot, really. If they spent $1 billion now under Todd Bowley, it's embarrassing, really. And I don't know why Poch took that job. I can't see him doing much better than last year this season. I put him 6th originally because I thought with no Europe, I still think it'll be hard to gel. But with no midweek games, I thought they'd be okay. But I'm not sure now. You've got like Brighton, you've got Villa who are also doing well. Like Spurs are doing a lot better than I expected. I think they'll honestly be lucky to come top 7 or 8 the way they're going.
Yeah. Right. Let's get our resident Chelsea fans' thoughts on this. Simon, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us. Here's a stat: we haven't beaten a top 10 side in over a year. Yeah, I thought I read that you haven't beaten a side that was part of the top 10 or top 6, or whatever it was, at the Premier League at the time since you beat Spurs 2-0 at the start of this calendar year. It's staggering.
I thought I read it was 22 months.
Was it?
I'm sure I read.
I thought it was this year.
No, I think you're going back a while. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm not sure it was last.
Maybe I read that wrong. But either way, that is just staggering. Right, sorry.
Changing fast, by the way.
Sorry.
Some are booing Poch already. Obviously, he's ex-Tottenham, so they're going to have the daggers to him quicker than normal. But if Poch goes and they bring someone else in, I don't know. Let's take a punt there. Who are they going to give 15 million a year? Wouldn't shock me if Conte went back there, for example. Yeah. I don't see the next manager being a greater success. I think that's a long process. I think they've signed 20, 30 players, whatever. If you sign 20, 30 players, you'd be lucky if half of them are success. So they got to filter through a lot of rubbish. So I don't think Poch should be there long. I never did think he'd be there long. However, I don't think the manager after that would be long either. So
it just seems like a conveyor belt of issues, and I think it's similar but different to Man United. Both clubs are in crisis. There's no doubt about it. There's 2 huge titans of English football that are hugely in crisis at the moment. Right, before we move on, Trini says, I watched the Millwall versus Leeds game because I have a friend whose son is an Arsenal youth player on loan at Millwall, but was happy to see them get battered. Well, Leeds went down so they could have their derby with Millwall, and it was quite funny to see Leeds beaten, to be honest with you. The final game of the weekend, we go up to Merseyside. Now, you've got to be careful with what you say here, Josh, obviously. Everton 0, Arsenal 1.
Yeah, well, as my granddad said, we never really expected to beat someone like Arsenal at home, but when you get, and they only got beat 1-0 as well, to be fair, but it's just more the performance than the results that I think Evertonians are angry about. Arsenal weren't really great, didn't really have to do much. They had all the ball, but they didn't really create too many clear-cut chances. Pickford didn't have to make that many saves. McNeil back in the team obviously had a good end to last season. Didn't really do anything up poor, hardly had a kick, and when he did have a kick, he gave the ball away. Better new striker. He scored against Doncaster, and they're all acting as if he's the Messiah. He has been quite decent for them in the Sheffield United game. He looks like he wants to put himself about, but he just had no support whatsoever, really. The back four, Ashley Young, who was solid for us all last season. I don't know why he's taking set pieces for them. He's never really took free kicks and corners, but he's taking all theirs, and it's woeful. Mikalenko, the left back, he tries his hardest, but I just don't think he's good enough either. And then you've got Garner Gay in the midfield, who wins the ball back for them, but he'll just give it away again. The core rate of fair, he's probably one of the better players. He works hard and runs, but also not the greatest on the ball. And then James Garner, who probably is the only midfielder who's okay on the ball, he left him out and put Amadou Onana in, who he's just poor for his size. He should be doing a lot more. He never really drives with the ball. He's about 6'5". He should be doing so much more, but he just doesn't. He's another average player. Dan Juma as well, who he brought in from Villarreal on loan, probably looks a bright spark, but still hasn't really done too much, and I just worry for them. I think Sheffield United, Luton are certainties to go down. But then after that, I'm not sure. I think Forest will be okay. I think Wolves just about have enough. I think Bournemouth will also just about have enough. So then Everton's left. I thought I was saying the other week, I still think they get enough 1-0 wins at home just about have enough. But I'm not sure now. Obviously, got all the takeover controversy with this 777 company who are meant to be quite dodgy, and they've owned quite a number of few clubs in the past who have been protesting against them, saying they don't put the money in. So that doesn't look great for them. They reckon they've agreed with Mashiri, just needs to be signed off by the Premier League now. And I think it's Brentford away and Luton at home the next two. I mean, if they lose to Luton at home, that is when they are really in trouble. But I don't really know who can sack Dyche. I don't think Mashiri's got much to do with it anymore. He's agreed to sell it. I don't even know who's in charge anymore. Who's at the top of the club. No one seems to know what's really going on. The club's just in a mess. And even if they did sack Dyche, they'd have to pay him a lot of money for compensation. He's on a big contract. And then who'd they get in as well? Like, they'd have to pay a lot of money for that. So they're just in a really poor state at the moment, the club. And I do worry for them. I hope they'll be okay again, because if they go down with that wage bill and then financial troubles, then that will be a big problem for them. But no, as for Arsenal, I don't think they have to be great, to be honest. And I honestly think Liverpool could be closer to Man City this year. Obviously, they had the offside goal in the first half, which is a bit silly. I don't even know what the rules are now. But
we will get onto that in just a second. Because that's going to be our final talk report in the night, will be that offside goal. But before we do, here we go. Great word, Josh, to describe Everton's potential new owners. Dodgy. Naughty Josh, naughty boy. Right, the last thing, and somehow we've managed to get to a position with 5 games into a season where all 3 of us have said I'd be incredibly surprised if it's not Everton, Sheffield United and Luton that go down. And that's staggering. I think that's staggering. But the final point is about this is about this offside goal or no goal. We've somehow managed to get to a position where once again a decision and an offside, which should be black and white, is down to perception, because you've got the ball coming off of the Everton player and then the VAR man deciding whether it's intentional or not. And that's completely down to him. You could have another referee be sat in the next week and go, hang on, that is intentional because he stuck his foot there, meaning for the ball to touch his foot and for it to be deviated from the position that it first went. He didn't want it to go over there, don't get me wrong, but he meant for the ball to go in a different way. Sean, hang on. He touched the ball, and I didn't even know there was a law about it being intentional or not. But I thought Gary Neville's reaction was staggering on the commentary. And once again, nobody's got a clue. Sean, I'll start with you before Josh.
We had a couple last year like this.
Yeah,
I think they were more like deflections inside the area. I can't remember which games it was, where someone went in for a block and it spanned the ball out the striker, and they were standing offside and blah blah blah. Well, I thought it was a correct decision. If you're following the letter of the law, you said then he put his foot there. He didn't, and then you said he didn't intentionally mean to pass it where the ball went.
But he did mean for the ball to go in a different way than the ball was going. So he meant to deviate the route of the ball, didn't he?
He didn't mean to pass it where it went. I think that's the key.
Right.
So if he didn't mean to pass it back through his back four, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Went in for a block, and I think that's when the word intentional comes in. He didn't intentionally try to kick it that way, so it goes down as almost like a deflection, and that's where the law comes in. So the letter of the law, I think because of where the ball ended up, I think it made it quite easy for the ref and VAR to say he didn't intend to do that, because he wouldn't have meant to kick it there, would he? So I think that's what they followed. And like I said, we had a few last season in the box, some weird deflections where it screamed. I think it was Liverpool probably knowing their luck, where they sort of screamed for offside, and it was like, no, because it's come off him. So it's like a different phase of play. I don't know, but yeah, that letter of the law that was correct, because it was an unintentional kick through. So you almost ignore that phase in the play, if that makes sense. If you don't intentionally try and do it, does that make sense? It's complicated, but I remember last season no one understood it last year, and it's almost like a lot of us has forgotten it, including Gary Neville. But that was
and then the second part of it was then the uproar about the positioning of the cameras, and we talked about this at length last year. And this is where, Josh, I'll come to you, is where you've got Goodison Park and Old Stadium, and the best camera angle they had was 10 or 20 yards to the right of being in line with it, which then meant there had to be an element, just a small element of guesswork to where the line had to be put to be established to where the last defender was, to whether Nketiah was on or offside. There just seemed to be a lot of uncertainty about it, and it was done. And these lines are supposed to be amazing. We're told they're amazing, but I mean, we've seen them go like that in recent years. But Josh, overall, offside or not?
It's a hard one, because when Gabriel passed it, it clearly didn't. When it deflected off Beto, it didn't mean to pass it forward, basically, did he? But it's just where they draw the lines. It's just, I don't really understand them. For all we know, for where they stop it, it could be like a second before the ball's released. We don't know. They don't show us that. And the way they draw the lines, not even straight half the time. It's like, I just think they're guessing now. I think by the letter of the law, if it wasn't intentional, then it probably is right. But there's just seem to be a few rules over the last few years which they just seem to make up as they go along, and I'm not sure. It's just the camera angle seems quite far away, and they only showed you the one, which is quite strange. And it's just the way they draw the line. To me, it's not straight.
Yeah, that sums it up. Your reaction, just lost the word, sums it up. We will leave it there. Well, a few people have mentioned that the bottom three or bottom four, Mike says here, he says, I think the bottom four will only get 20 to 25 points at most. So if the bottom three, if they all three of them fail to get 20 points this season, that means we're halfway to Premier League safety. We're already on 10 points. Get the party poppers out. We could be halfway to safety, but now I think that sums up the poor nature of those 3 or 4 sides currently down there. But we will wait and see. We are still only 5 games in to the season, of course. See, look at that, Sean. We're 5 minutes away from kickoff at the City Ground. Don't say I don't do anything for you. You can go and watch that now. Sean and Josh, thank you very much indeed for joining me for another week.
So
from me, come on, you Lions. Thank you very much. And we will see you soon right here on West Ham Official. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Brilliant.